Imagine a man whose name history almost forgot, yet whose actions held the fate of an empire in his hands. Not a vengeful gladiator, not a cinematic hero forged in fire and revenge, but a general whose mind was sharper than any sword. The Roman Empire teetered on the brink of annihilation, a superpower riddled with plague, corruption, and fear, and from the shadows of its collapse rose a strategist who would challenge death itself. His name was Marcus Nonius McCrinus, and the story of how he turned despair into triumph is more terrifying, more epic, and more important than any legend Hollywood could conjure. This is the true Maximus, a man who saved Rome when the world itself threatened to end. The year is 166 AD, and the Roman Empire, vast and imposing, stretches from the foggy highlands of Britannia to the scorched sands of Mesopotamia. From the outside, it seems invincible, a colossus that nothing can topple. But beneath the veneer of power, Rome is bleeding. A devastating plague has swept through its cities, killing millions, leaving entire towns as silent graveyards. The imperial treasury lies empty, drained by endless wars and internal corruption. Morale has plummeted, and across the Danube, in the dark, frozen forests of Germania, a storm is gathering. For the first time, the Marcomanni, Quadi, and Sarmatians have united. They do not seek conquest, they seek total annihilation. Their leader, Balamar, smells weakness and strikes without hesitation. Crossing the icy Danube, his forces burn villages, slaughter legions, and send panic rippling toward the heart of the empire. Italy itself is threatened. This is no mere border skirmish, it is survival itself against a rising tide of barbarian fury. On the throne sits Marcus Aurelius, philosopher-emperor, man of reason and inner peace, now forced into the brutal role of warlord. His armies are shattered by plague. Generals are incompetent, some treacherous. He cannot rely on Rome alone. He needs a weapon, a mind forged in strategy and duty rather than vengeance. That weapon is Marcus Nonius McCrinus, the man Hollywood never knew, whose tomb, discovered in 2008, tells a story that eclipses any screenplay. Born into one of northern Italy's wealthiest families, Macrinus was not a farmer turned gladiator. He was an aristocrat, a statesman, and a soldier, schooled in every discipline of empire, finance, law, governance, and most importantly, the art of war. Governor of the volatile Pannonian frontier, Macrinus knew the enemy intimately, their clans, loyalties, and weaknesses. His weapon was not the blade, it was intellect. He understood logistics, attrition, and psychological warfare. Wars, he knew, are won not in heroic charges, but by starving the enemy, breaking their morale, and seizing the invisible edges of conflict long before swords meet. When the emperor summoned him, it was not a suggestion, it was a lifeline. In the command tent, the air is bitter with winter, and tension hangs heavier than the frost. The other generals, terrified, murmur of retreat, of abandoning provinces, of ceding ground to save what little remains. Marcus Nonius Macrinus listens, silent, his eyes scanning maps and men alike. He sees what they cannot. Retreat would be Rome's death sentence. Weakness invites rebellion. Hesitation invites slaughter. Finally, his voice cuts through the murmurs, calm but merciless. We cannot fight them in one battle. Our army is shattered. The plague has claimed 1 in 3. But we will not fight their way. We will make winter their enemy. Hunger, cold, fear, these will be our weapons. Every village we burn, every supply line we cut, will bleed them dry. We will not fight with honor. We will fight to survive. Marcus Aurelius, stoic and principled, nods. He entrusts Macrinus with supreme command over the Danube legions, giving him the impossible mission of holding the empire's frontier. Yet the general faces a challenge closer than the barbarian hordes. His own army, 30,000 men, once proud legionaries, now ghosts hollowed by plague and despair, await him. Ordinary words of glory will not rekindle their spirit. Macrinus knows that to lead them, he must feed both body and mind. He becomes their quartermaster, their physician, their engineer. He ensures bread is baked, water is clean, shelters are secure. Only then, with trust born of care, can he bend them to his will. And bend them he does. Psychological warfare becomes his tool. The enemy is no longer a faceless horde. They are mortal, vulnerable, and can be Macrinus teaches his men to see the stakes, to fight not for abstract Rome, but for their wives, their children, their homes. The army of ghosts transforms into a disciplined instrument of vengeance, razor-sharp and merciless. When news comes of the outpost at Asali, besieged by 10,000 enemy warriors with no hope of relief, others counsel surrender, logic, and caution. But Macrinus sees the true trap not in the enemy, but in the hearts of his own men. To abandon them now would undo every reform, every lesson in loyalty. "We will not sacrifice anyone," he declares. His plan is audacious. A forced march of 3,000 elite troops, 80 kilometers in 36 hours, through forests, swamps, and mountains, to strike at the enemy's rear. Madness, the other generals whisper. Genius, history, remembers. They march through darkness and ice, through forests where sound itself seems to freeze. Hunger gnaws at them. Sleep becomes a distant memory, and yet they move on. Marcus Nonius McCrinus does not ride behind them. He walks at the front, boots sinking into frozen mud, breath clouding in the night air, sharing every hardship. And in that silence, something unbreakable forms. These men no longer follow him out of fear. They follow because they believe. At Asali, the end is already unfolding. The Marcomanni, certain no help will come, launch their final assault. Ladders scrape stone. Battering rams pound the gates. Inside the fort, 500 Romans prepare to die with dignity, knowing the odds, knowing the end is near. The gate begins to crack. Then, at dusk on the second day, Macrinus's force reaches the high ground overlooking the enemy camp. Below them spreads a sea of fires and tents, warriors focused entirely on crushing the fort. They do not look behind them. They do not expect the dead to return. Macrinus turns to the trumpeter. 2 words break the silence. Sound the charge. Fire and panic erupt in the enemy's rear. Cavalry slashes through tents, cuts ropes, scatters horses. Flames leap into the night sky. Confusion spreads faster than fear. Warriors abandon the assault and turn back, minds reeling, unable to understand where this new enemy has come from. And into that hesitation, Roman discipline advances. Shields lock together. Spears strike as one. The barbarians hurl themselves forward in fury, but fury shatters against formation. Inside the fort, the sound of Roman horns is not an attack, it is resurrection. The garrison surges out, hammering the enemy from the front as Macrinus's men crush them from behind. The trap snaps shut. By dawn, the valley is silent, littered with bodies. 10,000 invaders are not defeated. They are erased. The message travels through the frozen forests like a curse. Balamar hears it and understands at once. This is no ordinary Roman general. This is a predator who thinks differently, who turns speed, fire, and fear into weapons. He does not fear Macrinus. He respects him, and he answers with overwhelming force. What moves next is not an army, but a nation. 200,000 warriors, followed by their families, their cattle, their wagons. They burn their own villages behind them. There is no retreat. They march not to raid, but to replace Rome itself. Macrinus sees the truth immediately. He cannot face them in open battle. He cannot hide behind walls. So he makes a decision that appears like madness. He orders a retreat. Not a defeat, but a calculated sacrifice of land. Cities are emptied. Forts are abandoned. The province itself becomes a weapon. Hunger, disease, and winter march alongside the legions as invisible allies. Weeks pass. The enemy marches south, deeper into the poisoned land. Every step they take drains their strength, sickens their families, erodes their will. The Romans do not attack. They shadow them, harassing, striking, vanishing like ghosts. The horde believes they are winning. They feel unstoppable. And yet, every day, they grow weaker, slower, hungrier. Every fortress they claim is empty. Every river they cross is a trap. Macrinus has turned retreat into strategy, humiliation into discipline, and exhaustion into inevitability. Finally, near Aquileia, the stage is set. A valley, narrow enough to contain the horde, flanked by steep hills, with a river ready to break their advance. The Roman army halts. Confusion turns into revelation. They understand at last. Every mile of retreat, every burned village, every sleepless night had a purpose. They dig ditches, sharpen stakes, fortify positions. This is no longer flight. This is the trap closing, the predator waiting for the prey. Balamar does not hesitate. He calls on every warrior, every ounce of rage and desperation. The horde charges, a tidal wave of steel, fury, and hunger. McCrinus does not speak of honor or gods. He speaks of reality. "Look at them," he says. "They are desperate. They are fools if they think they are soldiers. You are Rome. Trust your steel, your comrades, your ramparts. Make them pay for every step." The first wave falls upon stakes, rivers, walls, and fire. Thousands perish before a sword is drawn. The mass presses forward, but the legionaries hold. Discipline meets chaos. For hours, the barbarian horde crashes against the walls. But the Romans, forged by months of relentless hardship, do not yield. The trap tightens. Panic spreads like wildfire. Then the final blow. 2 Roman forces descend from the hills, striking the flanks and rear. Trapped from every side, the horde ceases to be an army. They are a panicked, disorganized crowd. Balamar himself charges, attempting heroics. But he is struck down beneath the disciplined Roman spear wall. The threat ends. Rome survives. Macrinus, the man without cinematic legend, stands victorious. Marcus Aurelius honors him, and together, they safeguard an empire teetering on the brink. Hollywood gave us a hero seeking revenge. History gave us a man of duty, intellect, and vision, who understood that to save civilization, one must sometimes unleash hell, not for glory, but for survival.